This is the official EFL podcast with Mark Clemmit.
Hello everybody, welcome to the official EFL podcast with me, Mark Clemmit. We're into the final 6 weeks of the regular EFL season. The Sky Bet Championship returns after the international break, and the second domestic cup final of the season is upon us. It is the official EFL podcast. Yes, this Sunday, Wembley Stadium hosts the Papa John's Trophy final as Ian Evatt's Bolton Wanderers take on Stephen Schumacher's Plymouth Argyle, giving us the perfect opportunity for our annual game of cat and mouse as here on the official EFL podcast. Determined not to give anything away to the opposition, we are joined by both managers. Now, first thing we got to do, Ian, you two haven't had any touchline tips or anything like that. You are reasonably good mates. No, you don't hate each other or anything?
Shuey's very well behaved. Very well behaved. And he actually rubs off on me and makes me calmer, which is better. We've not had any of that.
Nothing
he's
close
too big
like
for me,
that.
Clem. He's well too tall for me to be getting involved with Evo. I'll stay out of the way of that one.
Yeah, he is a bit of a unit, and I mean that's a compliment, Ian, along the way. Actually, and you don't have to name names, but Stephen, there must be some managers who you are more fond of facing than others, are there? And some that you positively just want to get the experience out of the way. As I stress, this is the official EFL podcast, so let's not fall out with anybody. But would that be true? There'd be some you just go, oh, for goodness sake, I'm not having him.
Yeah, I think so. I think you go into certain games and you know that it's going to be a bit lively on the touchline. So we try and make a conscious effort to sign on and get involved. I've said it loads of times, Clem, there's too much for me at this stage in my career as a manager there's too much going on the pitch for me to be worrying about arguing with opposition managers or fourth officials. So as best as I can, I try and keep me cool. I've lost me cool once this season and paid a punishment for it. Got a 1-game touchline ban, and a fine, and I won't be doing that again.
Yeah. And Ian, when you do come off and you might have been involved in an incident like Shuey, are you getting regulated by family and maybe yourself as well 48 hours later, where you look at the pictures and you think, oh, come on, what was I doing?
Yeah. My 11-year-old son is the regulator in my family. He's the one that has a go at me. Look, similar to Shuey, I've had three yellow cards this season. And I'm always trying to improve myself. And that's one area where I've needed to improve, not getting involved with opposition, not getting involved with referees. I do think that the more time you do arguing with whoever else, you're taking time away from the team, and the team is what needs you the most and needs your focus. So again, that's probably an area where I've had to work on and improve.
Yeah. I was a little bit surprised when producer Dave, he had this idea of getting the two of you together, and then he came back quite quickly and said, yeah, they've both come back to me. They're both happy. Because I wondered whether this is a challenge for a manager, Shuey, because you wouldn't be so daft as to give anything away about the game itself, but obviously people will be judging, won't they? You don't want to say anything that motivates Ian's players. You don't, you've got to keep your supporters on side and not get too cozy. Does that stuff go through your mind?
Yeah, I think so. But also, Clem, I think the work that goes on now behind the scenes, like with the analysts and the amount of research that I know coaches and managers do on opposition, then I don't think there's many secrets about how we're going to play or how Evo's going to play. We've played against each other twice already this season and twice last season, I think, as well. So, yeah, there's nothing really too much to hide. So for me, when I got asked to come on the call, I was well up for it. Let's have a good old natter about Sunday, because I'm sure Evo's excited as much as I am, and our fans are going to be proper looking forward to it as much as Bolton's will be as well.
Okay, well, Evo's got the first challenging question of this particular episode, because I want to know what you admire about Shuey, Ian.
There's lots of things, really, and just touching on what Shuey's just said there, I think if you understand the game and understand what our two philosophies are about, then we're just backing ourselves regardless. We're not going to change too much for the opposition. Shuey will back his team and I'll back my team. And the way we go about things, there's not really many secrets at all. I know pretty much how Plymouth are going to play, and I'm sure Shuey thinks exactly the same about how we're going to play. What I will say is on the day, I just hope the best team wins, whether that's them or us. There's no controversy. There's no dodgy decisions. There's no, scoring against the run of play or whatever else and nicking a victory. It's just may the best team win. It's a fantastic final for the EFL. It's a fantastic final for League One football. And both clubs' ticket sales are through the roof, which speaks volumes to the connection that we've both got with our fan bases, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Before I press you to answer my last question, let's just build on that. I mean, in terms of razzmatazzi, and I think I'm right in saying your club are suggesting you could be a sort of 50-year high in terms of bums on seats supporting you on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, we've sold, I think, at the moment, 9,000 more tickets than what we did for the 2011 FA Cup semi-final, which again speaks volumes about what we're doing. Just touching on your last question, because I don't want to avoid it. Look, I have an awful amount of respect for anybody that takes on the job as a manager, because it's incredibly intense. It's really hard work. There's a lot of sacrifices that go with it. And especially for young managers who are making the way in the game, myself and Shuey are both very young managers, both had a lot of success pretty early on. And just an admiration for the way his team plays, the way his team against the grain, really, of the division. I don't really like talking about finances and spending money, because it's not really the way I want to do things. But what I would say is both teams are trying to do things in what I believe a sustainable manner. I know both ownerships are talking to each other behind the scenes about the way we do things and the way they do things, and it's very, very similar. There's a clear strategy and a clear plan, and to be at the top of this league with the clubs that are surrounding him and his football club is an amazing achievement. So I really do hope, hand on heart, not just saying it because he's here, that they do get promoted, because I'd love someone to do it against the grain.
And Shuey, being that Ian is a couple of seasons down the line further on from you, is he the sort of person you'll be looking at what he did at certain points and how he's developed? Even somebody you might pick the phone up to occasionally for little pointers and tips?
Definitely, yeah. I think the success that Ian's had with Bolton over the last few seasons has been amazing. I think they're a team who are so strong in loads of different areas. They have, as he said, they've got a real clear way of playing, and they've been like that now for a few years. And when they get the momentum behind them, they're a tough team to stop. The run that he's went on, getting out of League Two, was incredible. Getting up into League One, and then the first season in League One, played some amazing football, got going again, Evo, if I'm right, towards the second half of the season. And then I've started this season really well, so I've been in contention up in the top six pretty much all season. So yeah, nothing but respect. Has been doing it consistently now over a few years, and yeah, it's someone that I can definitely look at and say, well, keep going, keep trying to do what I believe in, and as Ian does as well, stick to your plan, stick to your philosophy, and keep working hard at it, and hopefully get the rewards in the end.
Both of you, on the game itself, is it one of those weekends where you really do have to enjoy the moment because they come along so rarely, going off to a Wembley final? You roll the league aside, you leave Good Friday until Good Friday, and it's all out. Just embrace the moment, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably a strange feeling for both of us. I mean, I was fortunate enough to play in playoff finals as a player, but that's the end of the season, and the whole season rides on that. Whereas arguably both clubs have a lot more riding on what's to come post Sunday. I don't know about Shuey, but it's been hard to focus this week. There's so many things like this podcast, for instance. Only joking, Clem. That are trying to take us away from our day jobs. Yeah. And really just managing the players' energy levels, making sure that doesn't boil over, keeping them focused, because regardless of what we all say, this is a football match. It's a 90-minute football match, hopefully, and at the end of it, there's a trophy. But post that, both teams have worked tirelessly hard to try and put themselves in contention to be promoted. So yes, we will focus on Sunday, and Sunday is the next fixture, arguably the most important one. But on the back of that, we have to refocus really quickly on Good Friday and Easter Monday.
But you have both committed to this, Shuey, haven't you? I mean, this is the 8th game for both of you in the tournament. Shuey, I think I'm right in saying you've beaten one Premier League 21s. Ian's beaten a couple of them along the way. So you've earned the right to be at Wembley this weekend.
Definitely. I think the players have been fantastic. I think when this competition starts, you know, it's one of them that a lot of managers say, well, just get out of it as early as you can if you want to have aspirations to get promoted in the league, because you don't need them extra games. But we didn't see it like that this season. We felt it was a good chance and good opportunity early on in the season to play some young players from our academy. We have an under-18s team, and then we don't have anything then until the first team. We decided a few years ago we didn't have the finances to support the 23s or whatever. So it's a good chance for us to get to see the under-18s mixing and playing with the first team players. So I decided this year to try and put 4 or 5 youngsters in with 4 or 5 seniors in the team and see how we go. And then we managed to win the first game in the group stage, which is great. Then we got a result in the second game, and it sort of just went from there. And as the games kept coming and we kept ticking them off and we kept putting in good performances in the league, we were playing well, and we just wanted to keep the momentum going. When you're winning, you just want to keep winning, and we didn't feel as though we risked too much with team selection for the league game at the weekend. So yeah, we've really enjoyed the experience, and now we're in the final, and it's going to be a brilliant day that everyone can hopefully enjoy.
I love the honesty of the pair of you. And Ian, you were on about 6-8 weeks ago, and you kind of shocked me with that honesty, because you were talking about not wanting to burn out the sheer physical consumption of the game. I mean, do you want to? Should we just reiterate this for Shuey's benefit? Football's in your head all the time. Every microsecond of the day, there's no space to deviate anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're both very similar in that we're very ambitious and we want to get to the top of the game. I know, you know, Shu will probably back me on this, that it does just completely indulge you. It takes over your life because there aren't any shortcuts in this business. We've both been in it long enough, even though we're young managers, to know that the minute you try to take shortcuts, you get found out pretty quickly. It's intense, it's hard work, and there's huge sacrifice to go with it. This is my 5th consecutive season, and going back on the stats that you said about managers losing their jobs, that's a privilege for me already to be in a job for 5 years. But moving forwards, as I said, I just don't think it's something that I want to do forever. I always thought prior to being a manager that I'd want to be in the game for as long as the game would have me. That's not the case anymore. I want to achieve what I've set out to achieve and my own personal goals, and then move on with my life and do other things, because, as I said, by the time you get to 60 or 70, your life's gone and you've sacrificed everything for this game. I just don't think that's where I'm at right now. So that might change, but that's
Listen here. By the time you get to 60 or 70, your life is gone. Can somebody regulate this fella, Shuey, please? Have a bit of respect. Have a bit of respect for your elders here.
You know what I mean, though. Come on.
Of course I do. If you weren't, seriously, if you weren't a manager, what do you think? Once you've had a little time out to reflect and reset, Ian, what do you think you might do with your life?
I don't know, Clem, is the answer. Hopefully I've done well enough as to be a manager that I can do what I want. And that's, you know, I'm a long way off that. But I've spoke about this a few times with you. I've had an incredible personal journey in my own life. I've gone through lots of dark times, lots of dark days, and management has given me another chance and another opportunity. And it's completely reformed me. It's completely reformed my character. And as you get older, you start to mature and want different things. And listen, I'm as hungry as anybody to try and get to the top of this game and be successful. But I just mean for everyone else that has to make sacrifices to, you know, help me in my career along the way, I think it's only right, my children, for example, that one day I'm there for them as well.
Yeah. I mean, Shuey, you tried to safeguard the family unit by not not doing the commute from where your traditional home is, but everybody's come with you. Has that made it any easier, or are you in a similar boat, which is that since your name was on the door, it's literally every second of every day?
Yeah, I think that was a huge part of why we've sort of been successful down here, because the family was with me, Clem. You know, Ryan, situation was different when he come down. Ryan's children were older than mine, and they were in senior school, and it was a really important time in their lives that it wasn't the right thing for him to relocate the whole family down to the southwest. But for me, my kids were quite young, so it wasn't a big deal for them to move schools. Within a couple of weeks, they had new best friends and everything that goes with that. So, especially being situated where we are in the country, it's not easy to get up and down the motorways. It's not easy just to go home after training in the midweek and come back the next day. It takes a lot out of you, and obviously that was one of the big reasons, as well as Ryan getting an opportunity to go and work in the Championship, why he moved back to Preston, because it was going to be closer to his home. But my family being here has been brilliant because I have that support. Then getting into the managers, obviously the manager's chair, life has completely changed. It's mental. Living down here in Plymouth in the city, it's everything. Plymouth Argyle is everything to the people of the city. And we were just walking around this morning. Me and my wife had to go and get a pair of shoes Evo for Sunday because I need some Schumacher gear. So I had to go into the city today and get a pair of shoes. And there's so many people who stop here in the street and say good luck, and we're going to be there, and we're leaving on Saturday, and everyone's just buzzing for it. So, but yeah, having the family here was everything for me. Yeah.
Well, you haven't got the shoes to hand, have you? You can't shout upstairs to the missus to
don't
bring
worry,
them.
I'll give him a mark out of 10 on Sunday.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think
you'll see me limping with blisters all around the pitch.
hey, I'll tell you that. Nigel Adkins once told me, I think he'd been out of the game for a little while, and then came his first game in charge of Charlton, and he had to put a suit and a proper pair of shoes on again, and that exact thing happened to him. He was limping around the technical area in Wimbledon because he hadn't
compeeds in my pocket. I'm telling you, the compeeds are going to be stuck right there. The physio will be on hand.
Just on the, we were talking numbers, and remiss of me, I didn't ask you about Plymouth's sort of buy-in, Argyle's buy-in to this. Do you know what sort of numbers you're bringing up, Shuey?
Yeah, so I think we're on 38,500 already now.
Wowza.
So I was with the club secretary yesterday, and he said there's about 1,500 tickets left, with obviously a few days to go, and that just blows your mind. Argyle went to Wembley in 2016 in the playoff final. I think we sold 33,000 for that. And by all accounts, it wasn't a good experience. The team didn't play very well on the day, and we were beaten by Wimbledon. So everybody remembers that for the wrong reasons. So we're getting a few more fans going there this Sunday. And I just, like Evo said before, I want to make sure that it's a good game of football. Two teams who styles kind of gel, I think, quite well. They're always exciting games when we play against them. I know the game at their place was 0-0, but probably shouldn't have been. So yeah, hopefully it's an exciting game of football, and we can put on a good performance for our fans who are just amazing. Again, the distances that they travel, and hopefully we can come out on top.
Do you know what? I think that the latest number I saw at the time that we were recording this from your end as well was about 35,000, Ian. So we could be talking 80,000 for this final. That's absolutely spectacular. I shared that stat that Ian's alluded to already just before we started recording this, and it was that 33 of the 72 EFL clubs have changed their manager this season. And with Jim Bentley's departure from Rochdale, 9 clubs have done it twice. Ian, is it time that football faced up to the fact that the manager can't continually be the scapegoat, that a stat like that points that it is not one human being's fault that clubs are not performing?
But unfortunately enough, Clem, that we know this industry well enough to know that it is always the managers that are the first ones to take the blame. Football, I said to you before, I love the game, absolutely love it. But the industry itself can be toxic at times. There's a lot of self-preservation that goes on. You know, sporting directors want to save themselves. They'll blame managers. Head of recruitment will blame the fact that the manager can't get the players to play. It might not be the fact that he's not selected the right players in the first place. It's just the industry we're in. Football is owned by some very, very wealthy people who have extremely successful businesses. And I don't know any other business in the world where your, profit and loss, for instance, is judged on a weekly basis or on every Saturday. Football managers need time. It's easy for me to sit here and say that, but they do. A full season is really a marker for me as to how a manager's got on and how well they've done or not so well. But judging it on a week-by-week basis just comes down to desperation, really, and it's the desperation for people to succeed, the desperation of people ploughing in finances to take risks to be promoted or whatever else, and the risk of falling out the Football League, as we've just mentioned Jim there. Jim's a fantastic guy, a really good manager, and whenever I see a manager lose their job, I feel very, very sorry for him, because it's an awful lonely place sometimes.
I guess the counter argument, Shuey, is that an owner, if he does things right, has the right to make a change to try and jolt that reaction. You understand that no club wants to get relegated, and I have to say that those numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 4 of the bottom 6 in the Championship, and if I'm not mistaken, the bottom 4 in League 2, plus there must be one other in there I've missed out because I said there was 9. But you take my inference, it's that desperate fight not to drop a level.
Yeah, because of what's at stake and the finances that go with it. And I think go back to what Evatt touched on before. I don't know too much, if I'm honest, about Bolton Wanderers' ownership and how you used to go about things, Evatt. But I'll just speak about how our club had ran and how well and behind the scenes that it all works. And it seems to me that then clubs are few and far between. People who've got a plan, who have got good ownership, a good director of football, a good CEO, who communicate with the managers. Now, I have constant communication with my director of football, who I've known since I was 8 years old, so I suppose that helps. And also my CEO. And then when you get to speak to Simon Hallett, the owner, it puts you in a confident mood that he allows you to be the manager of the football club and allows you to take risks without ever fearing that if you get one game wrong ever, or you'd have one bad performance, you're not going to be punished for it. We see things over a longer period, and I'm grateful that I'm at a football club that allows me to do that. But unfortunately, it seems in this country that a lot of football clubs are not as well run as what maybe our two are.
I mean, I guess there are less and less clubs, Ian, where a manager doesn't need to make an immediate, almost game-to-game impact.
Yeah, but mid-season, when changes take place, you normally get the new manager boost, don't you? And you get results. But the fixture list is so condensed now, Clem, that it's virtually impossible to get any detailed work into the players. The best time to get detail into the players is pre-season. So every manager should be afforded a full pre-season, where hopefully they can recruit their own players and then spend some time on the grass to detail what you want to do and your coaching philosophy and strategy is moving forwards. Other than that, it's play, recover, and you drip feeding little bits in. Sometimes not on the grass, sometimes visual learning, but that's virtually impossible to do when you're taking over a squad that isn't necessarily yours, or a squad that will suit how you want to play. To get sustained results over the course of a season is almost impossible.
What's the single hardest part of the job, Shuey?
The hardest part is probably trying to keep everybody in your squad motivated, because I've been quite lucky this season. I haven't had too many serious injuries. The squad has pretty much been quite full week in, week out. So keeping everybody motivated when you're trying to name a team or a squad and go through the reasons of why you're picking that team, but trying to convince people that they're still part of it and the picture will change next week. You feel sometimes that you might, the players will be going, oh, yeah, whatever, Gaffer, you just tell me what I want to hear. But I genuinely feel as though this season our players have been brilliant. They've accepted decisions that we've had to make as a coaching staff and decisions that I've had to make week in, week out, and got on with it. And then we've seen that players, when we've rotated teams and rotated squads, have come in and made big impacts. So that's probably the hardest part. I think the answer to it is just to try and be genuine, try and be honest as I possibly can with the players and tell them the reasons behind things, and then hopefully they'll come out and perform for you. But it's definitely tricky, and it's not going to be any easier on Sunday when you're playing at Wembley, which is where everybody wants to play. We can only pick 11. I'm sure everyone's got the same headache. There's going to be certain people that's going to miss out on the squad, and that's going to be the hardest conversations to have. It happened to me one time. I got left out of the starting 11 in a playoff final for Fleetwood, and it broke me. It was the last game of the season, so I stewed on that all summer. But thankfully this weekend, it's not the last game of the season. There's still 8 more cup finals to go for us, so everybody will play their part.
You're doing a lot of nodding there, Ian.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, really. Look, I think me and Shuey have recently been players, so we understand, when managers are telling you the truth and when they're not. And I think the most important thing is you're always honest and open with the players. They might not always like your decisions, but they'll respect you as a person for being honest. That's really important, and I think we've both got that. For me, there's so many amazing things that can be achieved just on culture alone. Just having a really good culture, a high-performing culture, which everyone's bought into. The most important people at the club, or the most important players at the club, are the ones out the team, because they can affect that culture. So it is keeping them on board, keeping them on side. And already, as Shuey said, I'm having sleepless nights about the 11 on Sunday and the players missing out, because I know what it means to them all. It's a brilliant opportunity to play at the home of football. But as I said, we'll have those conversations and being open, as honest as I can be.
Caution, both of you, remember where you are and who's listening in. Do you both pretty much know now what you are going to do? Or do you go to bed with one idea in your head, and then in the middle of the night you wake up, notice it's only 4:30 on the bedside clock, and then something different pops in your head? You go first, Stephen.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea what we're going to do on Sunday. We had an in-house game yesterday. I don't know whether Evo's played, because you haven't played for a few weeks or whatever. We played a game between ourselves yesterday on the training pitch, and which felt beneficial. Got referees and linesmen in, so it was real. And changed a few things around, because just seeing the players in the different systems and thinking about what we want to do, just trying to take that time, I felt was important. So come away from that game yesterday a little bit clearer in my mind, which is good. I'm sure I'll change my mind another few times between now and Friday morning when I'll name the team, or Saturday morning when I name the team. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But as Evo just said, it's not easy. It's not an easy job telling people that they're not going to play. But as long as you're telling the truth, then hopefully they'll accept it.
Evo, when it comes to the bench, is there more than just the dynamic of being a good footballer, but maybe a little bit in your mind is the back end of the season, and perhaps including somebody for reasons that you're going to need them 3, 4, 6 games down the line, or not?
To be honest, Clem, with the bench, it's kind of simplified for us, because the signings that we made in January are cup tied. There's three players that are cup tied that can't play. So the squad is the squad pretty much, because we've got 2 or 3 long-term injuries that can't be involved. But in terms of the 11, that's where the difficulty comes. We played a game against Rotherham on Friday because we needed a game, as we said, with the international break, and because we'd played more than everybody else. We've had to sit tight and be a bit patient, and we didn't want to go into the game Sunday having not played a competitive game. So yeah, I think both teams are prepared. As I said, it's going to be small tweaks rather than big ones. I think our strategy and philosophies are what they are. They've both been successful, and yeah, it's just the minor tweaks against the opposition. I tried to remember 1 or 2 things that Shuey said post our games this season, and probably likewise for us, and then try and plan accordingly. That's just the way it is, really. So no, I'm excited. Look, Shuey's got a brilliant reputation, and you always want to face the real good young up-and-coming coaches and pit your wits against each other. So Sunday will be no different, and as I said before, hopefully the best team will win.
I'm very lucky. I do quite a bit of communications and presentation skills coaching. The first thing I always say to everybody is great leaders set the tone, and you two are doing it immaculately today, if I may suggest. If you don't mind, I'm going to sprinkle in this weekend's the key fixtures from this weekend as we go through this chat. I'll start in the Sky Bet Championship. Friday night game is the immaculate Burnley, just those 2 defeats at home to Sunderland. Then on Saturday, early kickoff is Luton against Watford in one of the derby matches. Rob Edwards, obviously, a big day on his hands there. Luton 4th, 9 points ahead of Watford. Another derby is Preston against second bottom Blackpool. 5th place Blackburn head to Birmingham. We've got the South Wales derby, Cardiff against Swansea. Huddersfield, 3 points from safety, are up against Neil Warnock's former club, Middlesbrough, 3 points behind. Sheffield United, having played one game more. Sheffield United themselves are at 7th place. Norwich, Millwall in 6th go to West Brom. And Wigan are at home to beleaguered QPR. Are you like fans, you two, when the results come in and you just purr when you see, Stephen, the consistency of a Burnley or the transformation of Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick? Are you like wowing in your office just like I am when I sort of see the results come in?
Yeah, I've been watching obviously from afar and admiring what both of them clubs are doing. I spoke to Ryan a few weeks ago when Preston played Burnley, and he was full of praise of how they're going about it. They've been so good to watch and so different to what you would we would know a Burnley team over the last few years. So yeah, the job that Vincent Kompany's done there is amazing, and yeah, it looks like they're going to go run away with it. And then Michael Carrick going in at Middlesbrough has done outstanding as well. The momentum that they've got on the striker Akpom, who's probably never scored that many goals in a season before, has been definitely on fire. So yeah, he's been on fire. So yeah, it's great to watch. I'm just glad that the football's back on this weekend. I don't know about you, but it does my head in when the international breaks are on and there's no real footy. It does my head in.
Extra time to buy dodgy shoes, though, mate. I'm surprised you're doing that. I'm surprised you're doing that on a midweek morning. You could have got out with the crowds on Saturday afternoon. You know Ian, don't you? He's TK Maxx, I would suggest. So don't forget to.
Oh, he's better than that. I've seen his gear on the side. He's better than that.
In Sky Bet League One, then, obviously, minus our two managers because they are involved in the Papa John's Trophy final this weekend. 4th place Barnsley at home to 3rd bottom Morecambe. Derby against Ipswich is 6th against 3rd. Peterborough have worked their way to just 1 point off the playoffs. They're at home to Oxford. 2nd place Sheffield Wednesday are at home to Lincoln, and Wickham just outside the playoffs entertain MK Dons, who are just above the relegation zone. Ian, is there some weird form going on in League One this season? And you know when some of you go on these dynamic, I don't know, unbeaten runs or winning runs, then when it comes to an end, there seems to have been quite a lot of blips have been logged into the mix. I mean, Derby are obviously going through one at the moment. I'm going to level to listeners that we're recording this before we know the fate of Sheffield Wednesday at Cheltenham in their midweek game, but they've lost 2 in a row off the back of a 23-match unbeaten run. Is there some sort of, I don't want to use relaxation in a negative way, but does something happen in people's minds after a run like that?
I don't think there's any relaxation. I just think it's the reality of the standard of football we're at right now. I mean, I find it astonishing that Sheffield Wednesday can be 23 games unbeaten and still not be away and gone into the distance. I think it's crazy, and it shows you the level of Stephen's team and the level of the teams around them. Everybody's had a little blip. We've arguably had one the last few weeks because just the volume of games catches up with you. It's so difficult to keep your players motivated and focused Saturday, Tuesday. So the break has probably helped us and re-energised us. Still a lot of football to be played, and I do think there's going to be a bit of a roller coaster to the end of the season now. I don't think it's going to be plain sailing for anybody. There's teams that are hunting us. There's teams that are hunting Stephen. We've put ourselves in a position to be shot at, but we've done that for a reason because I think we've got 2 good teams and 2 very consistent teams. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the Championship and the games that are going on there and the teams involved in that. Then you look at the top 10 of League One and the teams involved in that. Just the amount that football's changed. Some monster football clubs being involved at every level now, and it's great to see. And I was a bit like Stephen as well with I don't know, I've gone all formal, Shuey, sorry. It's one day without football for me is enough. I'm ready to go back to work and crack on.
Yeah, well, I don't believe. Well, your head is certainly not switched off. Do you prefer to hunt or be hunted, Shuey?
Well, we've had a little bit of both. Actually, we experienced both this season. We were ahead by a few points.
That's why I'm asking the question. You see,
I don't either or. Just glad to be in the mix, Clem. That's the genuine, honest answer. Just as Evatt just said, there's been some brilliant teams on brilliant runs this year, and you know that if you slip up, that someone's going to punish you and capitalise, and it's been like that throughout the whole of the season. It makes me laugh when you hear pundits or you hear fans and people who you bump into say, "Oh, that's it. Sheffield Wednesday are going to run away with it, and Barnsley are coming. They won't lose again, and they're going to get automatic promotion. And you lost this week, so that's it. You're finished." It makes me laugh because if you've been in football, you know that it's never that easy. There's always bumps in the road, and if you can navigate them the best, they'll come out on top. So never too high, never too low. Just get on with the next game.
Yeah, I'm going to use a nautical term. It seems to me that you've repelled all borders this season, haven't you, Shuey? I mean, it's just there have been moments when people have been giving you a little poke with a stick. Oh, that'll be it. Oh, the bubble's going to burst now. This is going to happen. And then you go again and you lob another one in the mix. It's a start. Have you surprised yourself?
No, I don't think so. No, I think we not really surprised by it. We felt last year we done really well, Clem. We got 80 points last year in League One and against some huge teams as well, and managed to find a way to compete every week. We just ran out of steam in the last month. Last 6 games, we had a couple of draws and didn't manage to get a win, and that stopped us getting in the playoffs. So we felt this year if we recruited wise in the summer and brought in some more match winners, then we'd have a chance again because the squad pretty much stuck together from last season. So we're not really surprised. If someone would have said to me, you'd be top of the league with 8 games to go, I'd have thought you were mad at the very start. But we were there for a reason, and the players deserve huge credit for that because they've been dead consistent and worked incredibly hard throughout the whole of the campaign. But they've still got a long way to go.
Sky Bet League 2 fixtures. Actually, the top 6 all play each other this weekend. Friday night is 5th place Stockport against 6th place Salford City in a local derby match. Tranmere Harrogate is on that night as well. Early kickoff on Saturday, 7th place Bradford City against Grimsby. Rochdale Sartlife under Jim McNulty at Wimbledon won for the first time in 12 in midweek. And the other 2 games are first placed Leyton Orient against 4th placed Carlisle United and 2nd placed Northampton Town against 3rd placed former Stevie Schumacher's club Stevenage. Actually, when we're talking about blipsing, is there a line of thought that says get yours out of the way before the run-in? Because it's almost like a reset to go again. You don't want your blip with 5 games to go, do you?
Well, that's definitely the line that I'm using at the minute. Yeah. Obviously, look, football seasons are marathons and not a sprint, and it's an old cliche, but it's really poignant that these things happen. It's how you come out of those little blips. And come out of adversity, which really defines how good a season you're going to have. And as I said, both teams, I think, have had blips this season, but we've managed to come out the other side. I'm really hopeful that we can do that again, and it's a great chance on Sunday to park the league and go and enjoy ourselves with some freedom, try and get the right result, and then move on to 8 very important league games.
Yeah, you've beaten yourself up a couple of times. Just for the benefit of the listeners, after your 5 consecutive wins or 6 wins in 7, you've won 1 of your last 6. Is that in your head? Is that something you have to manage your own emotional state about, just to keep yourself on the straight and narrow? And who's that shouting? Go introduce me to a child.
She's getting ready to dance. Mum, where's me dance top or whatever she's shouting? Yeah.
I'm glad you're embedded in domesticity and not got your head buried in your tactics or something like that. I think I asked you a question, Evo, didn't I? I forget what it was, mate.
I don't know if that's right because we beat Accrington in the cup in that spell. So I think 2 and 6 is probably more fair. But anyway, who's counting?
Yeah.
No, it's
great block, Evo.
Yeah. It's as I said, it's a sticky spell. But in that spell, we've played Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday. Had some difficult away fixtures in Portsmouth, and Morecambe's was never an easy place to go. We've only lost 2 of those games, and tight as well. So, yeah, for us, it's just about refocusing, re-energising and making sure we're ready for Sunday. I do feel the last couple of weeks in particular, prior to the result at Hillsborough, that we have re-energised, and I do feel the standard of training, Shuey will be the same. You know your squad inside out, you know the players inside out, and you know when they're back to themselves and re-energised and focused. And I do get that sense the last couple of weeks that we're ready for the running and ready for the final on Sunday. That's
really interesting that you were right to pick me up in general terms. I always work, I think when I'm like on the results show for the BBC and stuff, I always tend to talk in league games and stuff like that, but you will always mash them together. Will you do the same, Shuey? Will you always include cup games in sort of when you're looking at your form and things?
Yeah, I think so, because you have to use the same players, and we go through the same preparation for all of the games. So for us, it's just another one in the calendar. So yeah, obviously the league form is where you get judged, but if you're on good cup runs and you've got momentum as well, then yeah, use them to your advantage if you can, because yeah, the players will get confidence from it. Yeah, as Ian's just said, it's going to be there's going to be a long way to go. 8 games after this cup final. Sunday is going to be a brilliant opportunity for everyone to go there and enjoy the day, and then there's 8 huge cup finals for both clubs, which is going to be dead exciting. There's going to be loads of twists and turns, I'm sure. No one will go and win all 8, I'm guessing. And yeah, there'll be a few surprises in there, but whatever will be, as they say when you go to Wembley.
How are you both feeling right now? Are you at this point in the season, Ian? Are you absolutely physically, mentally knackered, or are you a little bit sharper out having not had the games you have had previously over the last 10, 14 days?
I think the breaks refreshed everybody. I've got to say, I feel privileged, Clem. I feel privileged, and sure it'll be the same, that we're involved in these games. We're involved in a cup final. We're involved at the top of our division. Yes, there's pressure, of course, but that's the game we're in, and pressure for me is a privilege, because it means we're doing things right and doing things correctly. If you'd have asked both teams at the start of the season, Plymouth be top of the league and in the cup final, and us be in the top 6 in September and be in a cup final, would have snapped their hands off. So, yeah, just an overwhelming feeling of well done so far, but still lots of work to do.
Yeah, and are your lot, Ian, are you going tracksuits as you turn up, as you go in on the bus, or are you going to be wearing suits for you when you have your little walkout?
They're too smart. They're all big time for that, Clem. They've got all these Hugo Boss amazing Bolton wonders. That's why I had to go and buy a pair of shoes to keep everything.
We got the club. I mean, again, we're trying to nick 1%, right? We're all trying to steal 1%, and I spoke to the owner about having club suits, just as a mental switch on, really, for the players to put suits on away games or home games, and it's kind of like, right, it's business time, it's match day, let's go. So we did that in September. So fortunately for us, the suits are ready made and ready to go at Wembley, so we'll be in our usual attire.
Glad to hear it. And for you, Shuey?
No, we managed to get our players some new tracksuits, because the ones that we had were absolutely terrible. They were navy blue and faded, and they've lost the shape and everything. So we managed to get ourselves some new ones, so we don't look completely scruffy going to the big stadium. But no, it's been good. Everyone's looking forward to it. It should be a great day. We'll two brilliant teams going to get right at it. So yeah, it's going to be a good day, hopefully, and everyone enjoys themselves.
May the best team win. You have been a cracking couple of guests. Thanks, guys. Lovely to see you. Lovely to talk to you. And it goes without saying, if you're a Bolton Wanderers or a Plymouth Argyle fan, then have a great weekend. That is it for this episode. A big thank you to Ian Evatt and to Stephen Schumacher. If you've enjoyed it, then please do give us a 5-star rating. press the subscribe button and share on your socials. If you'd like to get in touch, our email address is podcast@efl.com. That's podcast@efl.com. I'm Mark Clemmit. Join us again soon for another episode of
The Official EFL Podcast.